So this is Amy for Sports Centred. Welcome to our new weekly roundup podcast. I'm very pleased to be joined by Matt Brown and Maria Thompson. How are we doing, guys?
Yeah, good. Glad it's the end of the week.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely glad it's Friday.
like I say, it's a new podcast, so we're going to be discussing all things sport, anything from football, boxing, rugby, netball. But if you have got any ideas of other sports or any topics you want us to cover, make sure you let us know in the comments. So let's kick it off with football. We're coming up to the business end of the season in the Premiership, the final three games. So this Saturday we've got Man City versus Brentford. On Sunday we've got West Ham Arsenal. Sunday we've got Forest Newcastle, and Monday we've got Spurs versus Leeds. Obviously, massive games that could probably decide who goes up and who goes down. So let's start off with Man City Brentford. So what do we reckon about that game, guys?
I think it's an easy win for City. I think you just need to look at sort of the form that they've been in and everything like that. And obviously, I think they're at the Etihad as well, and it's a tough place to go for any side. I just think it's going to be a comfortable win for them. I can't see past them in any way, shape, or form this weekend.
Yeah, I think obviously they'll be up for it because obviously they drew to Everton, didn't they, midweek? So they know that the title's kind of in Arsenal's hands. So they'll need to put in a good performance. Brentford obviously will be happy after beating West Ham at the weekend quite comfortably. But like you said, I think at the Etihad, you can't really see past City getting that win either, can you?
No, and they also need what needs to be done. So being at home will have an advantage for that as well. So
Yeah. And then leads us on to Sunday, West Ham Arsenal. Unfortunately, there's no way that both teams can lose this one, which pains me. Obviously, as a Spurs fan, it makes me feel sick, but we need Arsenal to win.
oof.
Would I take a draw? Potentially, because I can't have Arsenal winning the league when we're battling relegation. Um, but I think the form Arsenal are in, obviously, they'll be buzzing after winning against Atletico midweek as well. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be an Arsenal win. I think West Ham obviously know what they need to do as well. They're still in that relegation battle, so it's not going to be easy for Arsenal. I think in some ways it does help Arsenal that City play on Saturday, so they know going into the game on Sunday what they're up against, what they've got to do. It's a tough game for both sides. I think in many ways West Ham will want to bounce back after that loss to Brentford. They weren't good enough really, but Arsenal are going to be riding on that high after the win the other night that sees them go through to the Champions League final. I think it's a massive thing for them. Is there going to be a bit of a European hangover? Who knows? But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game for both sides.
Yeah, that's, like I say, I think you can't really see past Arsenal, but West Ham, like you said, lost to Brentford. They didn't have to play midweek like Arsenal did. Obviously, Arsenal had to defend very, very hard and had to battle against Atletico. So there could be a bit of tiredness around there. And also, they've got the massive pressure, haven't they, of knowing that they've got to keep winning. Although the title's in their hands, they have got to keep winning. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I need Arsenal really to do us a favour to try and pull us a bit clearer away from West Ham. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
And then Sunday, just another one that sort of pops out at us from the Premiership survival. We've got Forest against Newcastle. Obviously, Forest could be drawn into the relegation scrap a bit closer. Obviously, I think they should be safe. They're currently in 16th. They've got 42 points, but are they going to have a European hangover as well? Obviously, they've played against Villa, lost last night. They've Morgan Gibbs White, obviously his head's still pretty battered and bruised. So is he going to be able to play? It's going to be a tough one, I think. I know Newcastle aren't in the best of forms either. And I think looking at the table, Newcastle are in 13th. So mathematically, they could still get relegated, but they could also get Europe as well. So
yeah,
it's a pretty mad end of the season, isn't it?
yeah. And I mean, I think for Newcastle, I think they've massively underachieved this season. I think they the last couple of years under Eddie Howe, they've done well. This year, the fact that they could get Europe, but at the same time could get relegated, is fascinating to me. I think they've got some brilliant players. I mean, obviously we know that they lost Isak in the summer. I don't think they've really replaced him, but they should be doing a lot better than they are. As for Forest, they're obviously not out of that relegation battle. They lost last night in Europe. Is it going to have a knock-on effect? Are they going to have that European hangover that we've seen from a couple of teams? I mean, Palace, for an example, they've done really well in Europe, but then when they go back into the league, they then struggle. So, yeah, I think I can see it being a draw. I think it's two sides who aren't in the best form necessarily, but both have underachieved this season in many ways. I just think Forest need to start getting more points on the board if they're to apply the pressure to teams like West Ham and Spurs, who are obviously below them in the league.
Yeah, like I say, Palace beat. They won. Obviously, they're through to the final, aren't they? They're at home to Everton on Sunday as well. So they're Palace are still not out of it either. They're sat in 15th. So it's going to be another tough game. Everyone's sort of going to really be looking at each other's fixtures and results, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, leading on to Monday, we've got Spurs at home to Leeds. It's a massively tough game for us. Like I say, like I know we had back-to-back wins, I know, again, everyone sort of criticised Villa and making all those changes and things like that, but they still had a good core of their team. And I think we made them look bad as well because of our pressure we were putting on them. Actually, it's the first time I've seen everybody really battle. Conor Gallagher really dictated, Bentancur, Paulinho. They looked solid in that midfield. And I think if we can try and smother Leeds in the way we did Villa, I feel more positive. But again, I've been a Spurs fan my whole life. I can never take anything for granted. But what do you guys think? Where do you think the result's going to go?
I mean, I think with how close the points are from 12th, where Sunderland are, the teams obviously lower down in that are going to want to fight for every point that they get. So for your game, it could be ugly. It could not be. Same with Arsenal's game. Like, hangover from Europe, is that going to, are they going to be tired? Or are they going to actually be like, right, okay, say for Arsenal's perspective, they go, right, we can win it. What do we need to do to actually get out of it, whether it's draw or win, or hope that somehow Man City lose at home, which, personally unlikely. Obviously for you, Amy, I guess you'll be keeping an eye on all of them just so that you can pray and hope that you guys don't get relegated at the end of it.
Yeah, I just think obviously we've finally got that new manager bounce. It's taken, 3 or 4 managers from Ange to actually finally get a bounce. So it's tough. Obviously, we're not sure. I've not heard anything about Richarlison. Obviously, he hobbled off against Villa. Whether or not that was a bit of time wasting or whatever, don't know. Doesn't look like Vicario is going to be back for the game either. But I'm kind of glad. Obviously, I think Kingsky's done superbly. Obviously, the bounce back after being dragged off after 20 odd minutes in that Champions League game, he's looked superb. Obviously, the save against Wolves in the dire minute to keep that win will have given us so much more confidence as well. And I think the performance against Villa, I know everyone's saying how bad Villa was, but actually I don't think they've given Spurs enough credit. I know I'm biased and I will be, but actually it's the first time I've watched the game and thought, actually, no, this is the Spurs I know. So it'd be interesting. Leeds aren't any pushovers. Like I say, they're 14th. They're still going to be battling as well to stay up. So touch wood, we normally have some decent results against them, but I think it's a really, really interesting time. Obviously, the business end, I think everyone's sort of battling down at the bottom, sort of plays each other as well. I know we've got to play like Everton, West Ham have got to play Everton. Obviously, we've got Leeds and we've got Chelsea on midweek on Tuesday as well, which is going to be like the week after, which is going to be massive. But I think the only benefit to us is because we're playing after everyone else as well. We know we've got to win every game anyway to try and stay safe, but at least we'll know what everyone else's results are as well. But it's interesting. I think it's the first time where going into sort of last couple of games where you're not sure who's actually going to win the league. Obviously, City, they're 5 points behind. They have still got a game in hand as well. They've got to play. they win that, they're 2 points. So anything can happen. And then at the bottom of the league, yeah, like I said, anyone down from Newcastle, sorry, in 13th could mathematically go down. So yeah, nervous being a Spurs fan. Obviously, I'd rather be well out of it, but at least it's exciting for the neutral, I guess. And then going on to the Championship, obviously Coventry and Ipswich got the automatic promotional spots. Obviously, sadly, Wrexham missed out on the final day, didn't they? But we've got the playoffs. So we've got Millwall Hull on Monday night. And then Tuesday, we've got Southampton Borough. So I haven't watched as much of the Championship as I'd liked. Obviously, being local to Ipswich, buzzing for them to be back in the Prem. Obviously, could be watching them in the Prem whilst we're in the Championship, so that might be a bit of a a bit of a different one. But what do you guys make of? We'll start off with Millwall Hull. Where do we think that one's going to go to?
I mean, I think it's Millwall. I think they they've done really well this year. They've, in my opinion, massively overachieved. They are probably not a club that should be in and around the playoffs, in my opinion. But the fact that on the final day of the season they were still in with a chance of second place, which obviously has gone to Ipswich. I think Hull aren't a bad side, but they are perhaps in the playoffs based on the fact that other teams around them didn't do as well. I think Derby probably deserved it a little bit more. Wrexham arguably should be there. I just don't think that Hull can go to the Den next week and get a result. I think the first leg is tonight up in Hull. I think that could be a draw, and then it all comes down to that second leg. And I just think Millwall at home are going to be too strong. So I think Millwall will get a place at Wembley.
And then obviously Southampton Borough as well. I think Southampton, they came down from the Premiership last season, didn't they? So they've got that experience to maybe push them over the line. But Borough have looked good as well, haven't they? And would it be good seeing them back in the Premiership again? Would we like to see another team in there? Or is it going to be a case of kind of like what sort of the likes of West Brom and things like that, sort of the yo-yo teams going up and down?
I mean, I think Ipswich are probably going to be that yo-yo club. In all honesty, I think Southampton are probably the side who have hit form at the right time. I mean, I don't think they've lost in the league since about January, and I think that was to Hull. They have gone on such a good run that they were looking like they could get third. I mean, them and Middlesbrough were still in a race for second at one stage. I think Middlesbrough spent more time in the top two than near enough any other club in the Championship, including Coventry, who would have, easy winners of the league. Again, I think Southampton are just going to be too strong. I think that leg at St Mary's will decide it. And yeah, I think Southampton will get through to the final, and they're arguably my pick to win the playoffs. And I think they do it relatively comfortably.
I think they're still a very strong side since coming down from the Premier. I think the same. I think Southampton are going to look too good. Obviously, going back, I've still gutted for Wrexham. Like say, they were in the top six, weren't they, into the last day? But their result and other results didn't fall their way. But it would have been another fairy tale going. Obviously, getting promoted 4 times in a row would have been absolutely unreal, and would have been a bit of fun seeing Ryan Reynolds and stuff in the Premiership. If you can imagine that going on. But
and I mean,
no.
I think that's before you factor in the fact that one of Hull's goals, Ollie McBurney, I think, is probably about 2 yards offside.
Yeah.
And Championship clubs have voted against the use of VAR. If anything, it would have put Wrexham into the playoffs, and we'd have, I'd say, much better fixtures. I think Millwall-Wrexham would be a closer contest than what Millwall-Hull will be. And then the winner of that taking on either Southampton or Middlesbrough, 2 clubs that have got plenty of Premier League pedigree.
Yeah, be interesting to see, but obviously staying on the topic of football, obviously we had the Champions League like we discussed earlier. Obviously the first game on Tuesday, the second leg, Arsenal at home to Atletico, got the 1-0 win on the night, through Saka, 2-1 on aggregate. Do we think that was probably the fair result over the 2 legs?
I think so. I mean, it wasn't a classic, was it? Let's be honest. Neither legs were ones that will probably live long in the memory. I think Arsenal were probably the better side the other night. I think they were just too strong. Attack-wise, I ultimately think Madrid let themselves down with their attacking. I think they were a bit wasteful. I don't really think Griezmann offered a lot, if I'm honest. I don't think Alvarez really offered much either. I just think they weren't as good as we know that they can be, and I think Simeone will be disappointed by that. That it's not necessarily a lack of effort, just they just weren't really all there the other night. And yeah, I think ultimately Arsenal probably do deserve it, but more for the fact that Atletico were fairly poor.
Do you think Atletico kind of got pulled into Arsenal's game plan? Obviously, Arsenal were there to stifle them. They knew they were already sort of heads.
Yeah,
Idiot
I mean,
Premier at home. It's a
I
tough one,
think
isn't it?
I think they're two sides that at times can play quite similarly in terms of that dark arts, if you will. I know that Arsenal will play for set pieces and throw-ins and things like that, whereas Atletico will, they'll try and make the tackles and the physicality and everything like that. They are very much a Simeone side. Obviously, he's been there for I think it's 11 years or something now. Maybe they did get dragged into it a little bit. I think Arsenal knew what they needed to do to win the game. They played their game plan excellently, and ultimately Madrid just didn't really. I think that's what it boils down to.
And maybe in total comparison, obviously, I know the second leg wasn't as good as the first leg. Bayern PSG, obviously, the first leg, unbelievable game of football. Not sure either team fancied defending. Obviously, it was 5-6 in on aggregate. Obviously, 5-4 off the first leg. But do we think fair result PSG going through on the night? Obviously, I know a lot of things didn't go in Bayern's favour, considering they were the home side. But I think it was an incredible semi-final that will obviously go on in history, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely incredible across the two legs. The second leg, maybe not as exciting, but had its own sort of twist, its own drama. We knew obviously the Bayern needed to get goals, and PSG just defended brilliantly. I mean, Marquinhos was absolutely exceptional.
Unbelievable.
He was just unplayable the other night. The first leg was absolutely phenomenal. I can talk about how well PSG defended in the second leg. Neither team wanted to defend in that first leg. They were just going all out for goals, and ultimately that's exactly as football fans what we want to be watching. Give me an exciting end-to-end game that ends 5-4 rather than two sides who are setting up not to lose. That first leg was two sides set up to win the game.
To attack.
Whereas I think by contrast, Arsenal and Atletico didn't want to lose. I think that's all it
Yeah.
was. It's two very contrasting semi-finals, but I do think that arguably it creates a fascinating final because it's going to be PSG who want to go all out and attack, and Arsenal who are looking for set pieces, are happy to perhaps sit back and invite pressure onto themselves a little bit more, try and hit on the counter, and go from there. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to be a fullback in the final for either side. More so Arsenal. I don't know how they're going to cope, but yeah, I wouldn't want to play in the defence of either of those teams in the final.
Obviously, I was hoping the footballing gods would have done us a favour. Obviously, it would have I would personally like to have seen Kane, obviously in the final, get the winning goal against Arsenal to win the Champions League. But unfortunately, obviously, I felt for Kane. You could tell how broken he was
Mm.
afterwards. Do we think Kane should still or should he win the Ballon d'Or after another incredible season? Or do you think it's going to be someone like Dembele, obviously got into the Champions League final again?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, watching Kane in the second leg, I really did feel for him. I mean, obviously, he got his goal. Didn't really hear much of him in an attacking sense, but his work rate is just ridiculous. I mean, you're watching him win the ball back deep in his own half and then play inch perfect passes out wide to centre midfielders to whoever. I think he's got to be a candidate for the Ballon d'Or, but at the same time, you can't really look past the likes of Dembele, who could win everything. I think Kvaratskhelia could be in with a shout as well. I think he's been phenomenal. The only thing I think that isn't on his side is the fact that he won't be at the World Cup because obviously Georgia haven't qualified. So I think that does, as much as it shouldn't impact things, I think it will have that knock-on effect. So yeah, I think it does come down to Dembele. Kane's got to be in with a shout though, surely.
He's got to. Like I say, his link-up play, again, biased being a Spurs fan, but he done it for Spurs. Like what he pulled out of the bag sometimes for us to drag us along, and now he's in a much better rounded side in Bayern as well. Just some of his balls, like obviously in the first game, the assist to was it Diaz,
Yeah,
absolutely inch perfect. He's unbelievable, and I do hope he gets it because he does deserve it. But let's have a quick run round. What we're saying in the final, Arsenal PSG. Let's start with you, Maria. Who do you think wins?
PSG. I think
PSG.
Arsenal will be concentrating more on the Prem.
Yeah, Matt, what are we saying?
Arsenal, just. I think Arsenal nick it.
That pains you to say that.
I'm going to go PSG because, again, I cannot even begin to even contemplate Arsenal winning the Champions League. But no, I think it's going to be a great game. Like I say, it's going to be a case of whether or not PSG can break down Arsenal's defence. I think it's going to be very one-sided in terms of attacking. But yeah, I think PSG are going to be too strong. And they're used to being in finals. So fingers crossed they can pull it out of the bag. Don't often want the French sides winning, especially over English sides, but in this case,
No,
I think
and
9%.
yeah, and I also think if Arsenal win one, they won't get the other. I think it'll be hard to do the double that they've got.
Yeah.
So it depends on what they concentrate on more, I guess. So you'll have to see the events of it.
Yeah. So that was our football talk. So moving on to rugby, I don't know if you guys seen that it was today that there was an approved takeover for Exeter Chiefs from Bournemouth Football Club's owners as well. How do we feel about that? Do you think it's a good thing for Premiership rugby? Obviously, we know how so many clubs are struggling financially at this time. Do you think having a influx of cash will do them any favours?
I think really it depends on how wisely the cash is used. I mean, we can look at Wasps as the example. The cash that came in, the Wasps Galacticos, if you want to call them that, with the likes of Danny Cipriani, Curly Bill, Villy LaRue, and then later, the likes of Lima Sopawanga. I think if you're not spending that money wisely, then it's not going to help. But at the end of the day, investment coming into the game is only going to be good for the game. It needs the money. It needs the back-in. Exeter, although they're, I think, fourth at the minute, they've still possibly not had a great season by their normal standards. They would normally be challenging for a top two. And I think, I think at the same time, obviously the money coming in, they need to protect the history of the club. They obviously want to try and push on and try and win more trophies. As a league, we need to be competing with Europe, especially the French, because the money in French rugby is just absurd. We need to grow the game, but at the same time, we need to protect what's already there. So hopefully, these new owners for Exeter can do that. And then who knows what we'll see next.
Yeah, I think, like I say, the game needs an influx of cash. Obviously, we've seen over the last couple of weeks, Matchroom Talent Agency, obviously with the signings, you've got brain's gone, Pollock, sorry, and Russell have been signed up from them, obviously trying to raise their profiles. But I feel like we probably need, rather than just the players individually, we need the game to potentially be not franchised like in the NFL, but to some extent like that. There needs to be an influx of cash. Rugby, I think, needs to grow as a sport. It's very old school still in the way that it's run and managed. So I think the likes of Newcastle was Falcons, now Newcastle Red Bull. I think having that sort of influx of cash, rebranding to try and get a new wave of fans coming in and spending their money as well. So hopefully we'll see what happens with Chiefs, whether or not that helps them. Like I say, Sarries of old, they had money. thrown at them. Not always legally, but well, a little dig in there. But look, they're still in and around. Obviously, Sarries are sixth in the table at the moment. I think like sort of Saints and Bath are sort of pulling away. I think from the pack, they've got a lot of good talent around. I'm not sure, obviously, how they're saying within the wage and salary cap, but it'd be interesting to see. Like say at the table, we've got Saints in first with 62. We've got Bath second, 58. Tigers are up there with 52. Chiefs 49. Bristol 48 and Sarries 42. So I think Sarries can't get into the playoffs, but Bristol could find potentially get in depending on results as well. So who do we think? I think obviously it's going to be between Chiefs and Bristol, I think. Who do we think is going to have enough to go over the line?
I mean, I think it'll be a close one. I think it'll come down to a couple of points. I mean, I am a big fan of the way that Bristol play their rugby. I have been for a long time. I think the way that it's quite an expansive style. It's quite free flowing and attacking, and I think that arguably helps the game as well. I do think Exeter will hold on to fourth place, but I do think Bristol will run them close. I think it's also worth noting that Bristol play Saracens tomorrow. Northampton play Leicester. So there's two really big games across the league tomorrow. I think Gloucester have got Sale, but they're both nowhere near it in terms of those playoffs. And I think Sale will be disappointed that they're not in contention as well. But yeah, I do think Exeter will just prove a bit too strong. I think if they can play well at Sandy Park, they'll be fine. I think that's what it comes down to.
Having that home advantage, yeah. Like I say, it's interesting. You mentioned Sale. Obviously, they've really fallen away. They've been pumped quite a few times this season as well, which you don't always associate with Sale. Normally, they're that gritty side that you really struggle to
that
get
northern grittiness.
The grit that doesn't go.
I remember obviously time watching Wasps play Sale and just dreading playing them because just you couldn't get past them. They, like you said, they had that grit. So really weird
I think back in the day, going up to the AJ Bell and playing the likes of John O'Ross and everything like that, and you just absolutely dread it. Whereas now, I mean, I think it's twice this season that Noah Kalori scored 5 tries against them.
Yeah.
One player scoring 10 tries against you is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's unheard of. And like I say, I think Sale have also announced that Dubois has played his last game for Sale as well, which Shame obviously have been massive servant for the club and seemed very good for the Prem as well. So yeah, very interesting to see. But again, it's good to see the Premiership sort of all the sides sort of some decent sides pushing there. But Newcastle, like you see, rock bottom on 10th, only 7 points in the league, which obviously one of our favourites, Christian Wade's playing for him. Obviously sad to see as well. And Quinn's sat in 9th with only 16 points, Gloucester 8th, 21. So there is a lot of unbalance in the league, isn't there? So we'll see what happens, obviously, with the new RFU rulings on promotion and relegation sort of being scrapped for the moment, isn't there? So we'll see what happens. But so that's obviously the Gallagher Prem this weekend, but it is also the return of the Guinness Women's Six Nations 4th round. Red Roses are heading to Italy. I think it's going to be a really good game. Obviously, Italy got that emphatic win against Scotland, didn't they, before the break? Do we think England are still going to be too much for Italy?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, with Wales do manage to do a good job against England, obviously, and their previous game would have helped with their confidence. But I do think the Roses are going to not necessarily run away from it, but I do think even with their injury list, they've got the strength and calibre to be able to pull it together and know what they need to do and how to do it. And unlike other teams that may have a long list of injuries, Roses somehow managed to not use that as an excuse of why they would say have a bad game, even if they win it or not. So it'll be interesting to see.
And I think what helps as well is John Mitchell, even before all these injuries in all other games, he's not afraid to sort of make changes. He's always sort of chopping and changing the squad. So it builds that depth, doesn't he? Like even this weekend, regardless of the injuries, obviously Emma Singh's coming in, she's going into fullback and Ellie Kildun out on the wing, and just I think having that flexibility to have those types of players and chop and change them. So they've got Sadia Kabaya, who's out. She might be back for the next game, but Alex Matthews is out for the tournament. And I think they've got 6 of the pack who are sidelined through either injury and pregnancy. So that shortage of second rows as well is
Yeah.
giving more opportunities to other players as well.
Yeah.
But it is giving the coaching team a bit of a headache, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think unlike the men's, I think John Mitchell can obviously inspire the newbies to come in and they just fit in like a glove. Like you wouldn't know that it's their first cap or their second or their third. Whereas obviously they're playing with some that are like 50 plus. So it's nice to see everyone fit in and actually show that that's who England are. Now, yes, you could look at the unbeaten run and think, oh, what injury crisis, but some games they haven't been at their best, but they've still been able to win them, which is nice to see. So obviously it's easier to gel when you've got that background. And obviously a lot of them play with each other at the same club. So the club camaraderie will help that as well. So it's nice to see.
Do we think there are any sides that are going to be able to stop England? Obviously, the Six Nations, I think, is a bit of a different kettle of fish. France are obviously they're second level on points, but obviously England's points difference is a lot higher. Do we see France as being the only real side that are going to be able to stop them potentially if they can?
I mean, I'm not even fully convinced about that. I think this England women's side are just another level. I mean, we've said about the injury crisis, but you can take one player out of that team, put someone completely different in, and it just works. They click as a side. There's so much strength in depth across the pitch that I just don't see any team right now managing a challenge. I think France are a good side, but they're just not on the same level as what England are.
Do we think as well that sort of it's always going to be England's to lose, England's game to lose, so
Yeah,
England would have to have them there
100%.
rather than anything else? Yeah, I think they're so strong. We've got this weekend, obviously, all the games are on Saturday, so we've got Italy, England at 2 o'clock, and then Scotland, France. I think Scotland potentially could give France a game, but I think France will be too strong anyway. And then Ireland, Wales, I think would be another good one. I think Ireland could get a win there as well. Ireland looked good against England, really stifled them, but I think just pulled away, didn't they? Obviously, they're too far ahead in the first half. But
Yeah,
so
I guess obviously the last game against France, being in France is going to be key. But as Matt said, England just find a way and get it done without thinking about it. So it'll be a nice game to watch, obviously, because top 2 teams fighting for the championship. But at the same time, yeah, England's to lose for sure.
yeah,
Do you know
so
what? I think we say that it's England's to lose, but I also at the same time think a difference between the men's side and the women's side is although we expect the women to win everything, there's still not the same level of pressure.
No.
When we watch the men's team, we play. It doesn't matter who we play. We expect them to win, and then we nitpick any little possible hole. Whereas when it comes to watching the women, if they have a poor game, it's fine. It's a one-off. They still got the job done. Move on.
Yeah.
Whereas England men, we talk about it for weeks, and I think that's a big difference. And I think that does help the women's side in a way, in that although we do expect good things, there's not necessarily the same amount of pressure.
I mean, also, I think it also helps the women's side that, yes, our last loss was against New Zealand in that World Cup final, which was gutting with the red card that happened. But also, the game flows better. Yes, obviously, women's game, you got family vibe. Even at Twickenham when I went a few weeks back, I found it much more comfortable to be at for starters, which was really nice. And obviously, with that family vibe and that sort of environment, you face less criticism that way. Obviously, yeah, with who's out with pregnancies and stuff, people doubt whether they should be training or not, which I won't get started on that because we'll be here forever. But they seem like they get on better, and with that, I see that in netball as well. The more you gel with your teammates, the more likely you are to actually enjoy the big internationals. So I think that's also really key as well.
No, definitely. Right, so we're all saying Red Roses victory.
Yeah.
This one, yeah. Cool. That slots us seamlessly into what you just mentioned as well with the netball. So
Yeah.
going into next round, obviously, of NSL games, which some are crucial for the top four as well.
Yeah, so we're round 11, so we've got 4 rounds left before the major and minor semis, which even a year on is still confusing to me. But tonight, obviously, as we're recording this on Friday, tonight we've got Lightning Panthers. Now, bearing in mind that Lightning won against Panthers by 14 in round 5 quite early on in the season, expecting it to be a walkover. So Sammy Wallace-Joseph was out last week against Pulse, and having been there, Pulse took a while to click against them, but with Lightning having their full side this week, I do think it'll be another blowout game. And Panthers not being as strong on the super shots, so the 2-pointers, that Lightning are going to take advantage of that pretty early on. So
Yeah.
that will be an easy game. So won't be as exciting as the other 3 that are on offer tomorrow and Sunday, but it'll be interesting to see how close they can close the gap from last time.
Yeah. And I know, sorry, I know
on.
you mentioned obviously previously that
Mhm.
obviously the recordings and obviously the streams and things hasn't been up to standard. Has that improved during as the season's gone on?
Mostly the Thunder game a few weeks back where there was no clock, no scoreboard on TV. So me being me naturally, I got my pad and pen out and then ended up scoring the game myself until the score came back on the screen, which doing that at district, it comes naturally, but people at home shouldn't have to be using their own stopwatches. People shouldn't have to be scoring the games themselves just because the streams aren't there. Now, I know obviously Sky and BBC sometimes use third parties, which can obviously impact on the quality. But if the league does want to be in the professional era, which this season technically is the second season, it's hard to see what work's being done behind the scenes to improve that. I mean, the few rounds have been great. I've had no issues. Generally, BBC's coverage is better than Sky, obviously, because BBC are used to streaming stuff on just BBC Sport. But it's just been frustrating to see. You're in the professional era, you want professional standard coverage.
Yeah. And I think as well, like they're wanting to grow women's sports, so
Yeah,
having these sort of
exactly.
issues doesn't give the best
I mean,
impression of everything.
it's great having the games on the Sky Sports YouTube channel because that is obviously free to view, which is really nice. And obviously BBC, yes, you've got TV license, but with the game, all of the games being watchable, unlike 2-3 years ago where only say 1 or 2 would be on view, it's nice to see that they're covering all of them. But you would expect, and everyone expects on social media, to have that steady coverage.
No,
So
definitely.
it's interesting.
Perfect.
For Saturday's games, obviously you've got 3. There's a double header in Liverpool, so you've got Dragons versus Rhinos. That'll be key for them because they'll both be wanting a win out of it. And right, bearing in mind they're not necessarily in the tight for top 4, the points difference for that will be key. The Forest Mavs game at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Forest and Mavs are 4th and 5th. Now, I reckon whoever wins that will get 4th spot for the finals and stuff. But with Forest only winning by 1 last time, it's going to be tight and it's going to be key. And Mavericks have an easier run in for the next 3 rounds compared to Forest. So it depends on who has that mentality to actually go, okay, we can actually get top 4. How are we going to achieve that? So that'll be key. But annoyingly, obviously, the Forest Mavs game's at 3 and Dragons Rhinos is at 3:30. So obviously fans are going to look at that and go, what's going to be the more exciting game to watch? So personally, for me, I'll be keeping an eye on the Forest Mavs purely for the top 4.
Yeah.
And then the other game that will be key is Thunder and Pulse. Thunder or Pulse are second and third. And Pulse won by 5 back in round 1. But with Thunder looking stronger, it could go either way. So that will be key. But last week, stressful being the Pulse went into extra time yet again, which I would rather not happen. Because being a fan of both clubs, it's going to be one of those games where I'm like, I want both to win. But at the same time, I know both can still achieve top 4. So the pressure's off Pulse a little bit because they've already achieved that. But Thunder ideally would like the win just so that they can solidify that spot. So it'll be interesting to see the different tactics.
Yeah. Like I say, a really exciting weekend.
Yeah. Nothing's getting done tomorrow after lunchtime tomorrow. That I'm not doing anything.
No. That is
so yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend tomorrow, but it'll be worth watching it.
Perfect. Okay, so leading on, obviously, we're going to talk a bit about boxing now. Last week, well, the week before, it was an insane weekend of boxing. We started off with the Australian card on the Wednesday, and then on the Saturday morning, we had Naoya Inoue against Nakatani, obviously one of the biggest fights in Japanese boxing. We thought it was going to be a bit closer, although Inoue destroyed Nakatani. Really, really good game. One of the things I'd previously asked Eddie Hearn was, were we going to see Bam Inoue? I think it kind of was dependent on if Inoue beat Nakatani, but yeah, it looks like potentially early 2027 we could see Bam Inoue, which will be absolutely unbelievable. Bam's got Vargas on the 13th of June, but it is a fight they want to make. Inoue is super bantamweight now, so Bam would need to come up a weight. But I think that would be an absolutely incredible clash as well. And then Saturday night, I was there in Wolverhampton, headline event, Conor Walker, Sam Egerton. It was labelled The Trenches, and it absolutely was. I don't know if you guys watched it. It was an absolutely unbelievable boxing match. Conor Walker winning by TKO in round 10. But it was not easy for him. Obviously, Sam Egerton is a tough, tough man, but so is Conor Walker. Obviously, I'm a big fan of him anyway. I'd much rather him move his head a little bit more and stop getting hit so much, because he took some punches and he was down on 2 of the cards as well, coming into the last 2 rounds. He needed that knockout. It was absolutely unbelievable. The atmosphere was unreal as well. It was at Civic Hall, 2.5 maybe thousand fans all sort of piled on top of one another. It was good. Obviously, you love these big stadium and massive arena fights, but having that sort of fight where you're all so enclosed, the atmosphere was unbelievable. Great night, really, really good card as well. That had the co-main Bilal Fawaz, who beat Ryan Kelly. So it'd be interesting to see what Bilal does. He still hasn't got a British passport, so he's lived in the country for over 20 years, worked, he's represented Britain.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but he still hasn't been allowed. Obviously, Eddie Hearn after the fight gave a rousing speech in aid of him. Because obviously it really restricts Bilal of what he can go for, what title fights or world titles he can go for, because he can't travel. So be interesting to see. Ryan Kelly did a really good showing of himself, but yeah, Bilal, regardless of his showboating and things, really done the business. Some other fights of note: TMA Ayton against Stevie Levy. Massive Tia fan anyway. She's an absolute animal. She was really disappointed although she won on points in her last fight, but she obviously didn't get the knockout. But yeah, I love Stevie Levy. She's a tough, tough woman. She stepped up in weight as well. So she jumped up to featherweight and she looked so strong at the weigh-in. Like her muscles were popping. She looked good. There's a lot of pressure on her as well. She's only 19 years old. And yeah, like one of the goats of boxing, Kate Taylor, saying she could be a multi-weight undisputed champion. And I think where she's had those knockouts in those 4 of her last 5 fights, there was that pressure of her. So actually, it might do her good now. Now that she stepped up a weight and she's not having to make weight on the eve of a fight, and now she's almost got that monkey off her back of always knowing she has to go for that knockout. But that was a great fight. Shannon Taylor as well got the knockout of Nicola Atwell, absolutely savage punch as well. So the women done the business on the card as well. Saw the likes of the return of Janae Boston, Harley Burrows' debut, and Louis Ward as well. So unreal night of boxing. And then topped off in the early hours with Benavidez destroying Ramirez as well. Talks of Benavidez potentially getting Usyk. So really, really good weekend of boxing heading into this one this Saturday. We've got Wardley versus Dubois. Massive heavyweight clash in Manchester, the Manchester Arena. Yeah, I think it's going to be such a good fight. Been a bit of back and forth between the two, which I love. You had Wardley obviously saying about Dubois, if he weren't a boxer, he'd be a bin man. So there's been a little bit back and forth. Dubois walking out of a interview as well. So I think a lot of people try and target Dubois because they know he's uncomfortable. He doesn't like doing media, so they try and get under his skin. It doesn't always work. Like same with AJ in the AJ fight. Obviously, when Dubois knocked him out, AJ tried to get under his skin as well. So I think it's going to be a great fight between the two of them. Who do we think is going to get the win? Do we think it's going to be a knockout? Obviously, I think for both of them, it's only ever gone to the scorecards once. So do we think we're going to see a knockout?
No.
No.
No, I think it could be an absolute war between the two of them. I mean, I like Dubois. I think he's a brilliant boxer. He can take a punch really well. I mean, he strikes me as a lovely bloke, but it strikes me as there's nothing going on upstairs. Absolutely nothing. And I think, to an extent, I think that makes him a better fighter because there is just no fear there at all. But I think Wardley is just an unbelievable boxer. And I mean, I hope it's just going to be two big blokes just punching lumps out of each other for 12 rounds. I mean, it could be an early knockout for one of them, but in my head, it is 12 rounds of real ugly boxing where they are just punching lumps out of each other and it goes to the scorecard. That's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I'm going to pay my money for tomorrow night.
No, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be tight because, like I say, I think both men are going to go for it. I think Dubois obviously he's gone back to Don as well. So he left him, went to Tony Sims, gone back to Don again now. So that could do him some good. Obviously, after he lost to Usyk, obviously there was the talk. Obviously, he had the party beforehand, turned up late. So we'll see, obviously, what happens with that.
I mean, who doesn't lose to Usyk though? In fairness,
exactly.
He's just ridiculous. At whatever weight you put him in, he's just a freak.
Yeah, he's absolutely unreal. And I think he's just got that aura as well. Like, he trains like an absolute savage as well. Like, he's unbelievable. And that's why, sort of as an AJ fan as well, I'm really glad he's been part of Usyk's training camp. I think after what AJ went through, just having, it looks like it's good vibes in that training camp. They have to obviously train ridiculously hard, but having somebody like Usyk there supporting him after what he's gone through is going to be absolutely superb. But yeah, going back to this fight, I think Wardley, he's got an absolute hook on him. So I think it's whoever lands that big punch first. Hopefully both of them are going to be throwing their hands as well anyway. But I don't think I can see past Wardley. Like say, nobody expected him really to do the bit. Everyone's always sort of written him off. Nobody expected him to beat Parker. But he did. Nobody expected him to beat Clark. All those ones. Obviously, Justice Hooney when he headlined in Ipswich as well. So I think he might be too strong. I think he will be retaining his WBO title as well. But hopefully, like I say, it's going to be an incredible night of boxing. Really good card as well. You've got Morel, who's been added to it after obviously his headline event against Smith was cancelled. He's got a tough fight against Zach Kelly as well. Got Jack Rafferty as well, who's an excellent fighter against Echo Esserman. Obviously, Esserman looking to bounce back after Jack Cattrall knocked him out back in November. return of Liam Cameron as well against Brad Rhea. Rhea looking to bounce back after his loss to Lyndon Arthur as well. Got Khalil Majid, obviously a rising star as well, against Gavin Gwynn, the Merthyr Mexican. Looking to put on a performance after his draw against Cam Vong in Birmingham in November last year as well. But really, really good card. So looking forward to it. But going back to the headline event, obviously we'll start with you, Maria. I think me and Matt have said who do you reckon will win, Wardley or Dubois?
I honestly think what you're going with, Amy, just because of what you've gone by. But it's just, I was just going to ask, like, do they go for the knockout straight away, or is that something that they tactically try and do later on in the rounds if it gets to that?
I think it kind of depends on the fighter. Obviously, there's a lot of really technical boxers who won't always go for the knockout. They'll try and build up the points on the scoreboard. But then you've got fighters like I mentioned with Conor Walker, Sam Egginton. Neither of those are tentative tactical boxers. They will just try and take each other's heads off. They'll take a hell of a lot of
Go
shots.
for it early on, yeah.
Yeah. But I think both of Wardley and Dubois, I think they're both fighters that will go for the knockout. I think it's just whoever's defense is better on the night and who don't get hit. So I think it's really tight. I think it's a lot closer than what some people think. But I think it's going to be a great fight.
I mean, I think, Maria, to an extent it's about boxing clever. So
Yeah,
I think
the smarts behind it.
Yeah, watching like the Fury fight the other week, Makhmudov was dominant for the first 2 rounds and then was absolutely blowing after. It was like he'd gone out early, was trying
gone out early and hard, yeah.
Yeah, and had ultimately messed himself over by the third or the fourth round, and Fury was able to just comfortably just dance around, hit him a few times and pick up an easy points win. So I think it does, as Amy said, it does sort of vary. But hopefully, like I said, it'll be 2 big lumps tomorrow, just trying to knock 7 shades of whatever out of each other.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Like say, it's all going to be live on DAZN as well, so be able to watch the prelims and then obviously the main card. So yeah, buzzing for it. That'll be my Saturday, watching the football and then the boxing and then the football again on Sunday and Monday, crying behind my sofa, I think so. But yeah, so
isn't Fury and AJ coming up soon, or is that?
So it's not been confirmed yet. Obviously the contracts have been signed,
Right.
which is good. But AJ's got a warm-up fight against Prenga in Riyadh in June or July. It's gone from my brain.
Okay.
Tough
I think
fight
it's
for AJ.
June.
Yeah, it's going to be a real tough fight for AJ. Prenga's, although he's lost 2 or 3 times, 21 of his wins, 20 have come by way of knockout. So it's a tough challenge for him, but I think it's something he needs to try and get him up those levels quickly before he faces Fury. There's talks that Fury might take another warm-up fight as well before he fights AJ. So we're probably looking back end of the year, maybe September, October time before we potentially see it. When I spoke to Frank Smith as well, they haven't even decided on venues either. So apart from his living room, which Frank was hoping, but
well, they won't. They kind of, yeah.
No, it's been signed, so it should happen. But where, when?
I mean, I think in terms of the where, surely it's got to be Wembley.
Yeah,
you can't. You can't have 2 of the biggest boxing names in Britain fighting anywhere else. And I mean,
it would be stupid if you had it anywhere else.
And I know that Turki Al-Sheikh's involved, and I know he's been brilliant for the sport. But I think he would be naive to try and put it in Riyadh or anywhere else. I think it has to be done over here. I mean, Croke Park is a great suggestion as well. I know people said about putting Katie Taylor on the undercard, which I know Eddie is very much against, and rightly so. She is the headliner at that stadium.
Yeah, it's her night. It's her night.
Exactly 100%. That. So I think the where's got to be Wembley. I mean, back into September, international weekend, get England an away game, do it then.
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect timing then.
Yeah, I think it's got to be sort of that back end of the year.
Yeah.
We've given AJ and Tyson potentially their warm-up fights for it. But yeah, I think Wembley is the only venue, like I say, with the capacity it has, it's got to be there. Even Spurs, I think, will be too small for it.
Yeah, 100%. Wembley's definitely the better location for it.
Yeah. I think
Now,
that year as well
yeah,
allows either one of them to find a reason to not have the fight as well. It gives them that time to pull out just in case. We all
Yeah,
know what
like I said,
they're like.
contracts are signed, so fingers crossed. I think
yeah,
we can't not have that fight.
okay.
But I think the undercard will be absolutely unreal. Obviously, after Conor Walker's fight on Saturday, called out Conor Ben saying on their undercard, that would be absolutely unreal.
Yeah.
So
He's a
yeah,
free agent now, isn't he, Connor?
no, he re-signed with
He
Zuffa.
re-signed again now.
Yeah, crazy. Like just a couple of hours after his fight, it got re-announced. So that was really weird, that one. But but
Yeah.
no, that sort of rounds up our very first sports-centered weekly roundup podcast. Obviously, if anyone has any comments or any questions that you want us to discuss, pop it in the comments section below on YouTube. We're hoping as we do these, potentially we might have some special guests come on the podcast. I'll try and pull in some favours, try and get some names on here for us as well, which would be good. But we will obviously let you all know. But thank you for joining us. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Maria.
My pleasure.
Yeah, no worries.
And we will catch you all up next week.